Hello everyone.
Help me! Help me!
Let's design a rock paper scissors game with Python. So today we are going to design this application, rock paper scissors, and simply it's a game of rock paper scissors with a computer, and the user can choose between rock paper and scissors. So for example, if I have chosen rock, the computer also have chosen rock for this example, and here it's a tie. If I've chosen something else, it's scissors. So rock beats scissors, meaning that I've chosen wisely and I have won. And now the computer have chosen paper and I've lost. So it's an infinite game that I can play with the computer. Let's get started. So after importing Tkinter and random, we can get started. Just a small notice here. If you haven't already installed Tkinter in your laptop, you need to do that via pip install Tkinter. First, what we are going to do is to define the backend of the application, which is the simple logic of playing the game. So we'll define a function, define play game, that takes a user choice and returns a result. But let's pass for the moment and let's call our function play game. That does nothing for the moment. Let's call the function play game with the choice of row. So the first thing that we need to do is to define a list of choices. Now, if the user choice is not in these choices, this means that we return nothing. You can return anything you want, or we can simply return invalid choice. Okay, so for example, if the user have chosen uh, something like that, and yeah, not in choices, this will return invalid choice. But here we are actually in control of the user choice, so we can remove that because we always know that the choice of the user will be between rock, paper, and scissors. So no need to control these extreme cases in this case. So first things first, we need to get the computer choice, which is a random dot choice from choices. This is simply a random choice that will be random each time we execute between rock, paper, and scissors. Okay, so if the user choice is equal to the computer choice, this means that it's a tie. Our result is a tie. Else if or elif, in this, uh, let's say else if, we are going to look for cases where the user has won. So we have three cases. The first one is that the user has chosen rock and the computer has chosen scissors because everyone knows that rock beats scissors. So in this case, the result is that the user has won. But it's not the only case. So we add an or here and we add a backslash so we can go back to the line and complete our else if logic. The second thing is that the user has chosen a paper and the computer has chosen rock. Also, paper beats rock. Or the final one is the user has chosen scissors and the computer has chosen paper. Okay, in this case, the result is you chose wisely, which is a text that I've chosen to make it appear here. All right, finally, so if I don't like how these are displayed here, okay, a bit better. So if it's not a tie and if the user hasn't won, this means simply that the result is that the computer has won. You chose poorly. Okay, so if I execute here and I've chosen rock. The computer chose paper. Everyone knows that paper beats rock, meaning that I've lost, which is why we choose poorly. We go back, rock, so it means a tie, and here it works. Now we will define a function that will create the front end of our application and we'll call the back end, which is the function that we have just created. So let's define create GUI, which is a function we pass for the moment and we call it here. All right. Of course, now it does nothing. So first things first, we create the application. Okay. First, we create a root object, which is our application via tiki.tk class. Then we give it a nice geometry of 600 by 600 pixels via root.geometry. And this means 600 pixels multiplied by 600 pixels. 600 pixels for the width and 600 pixels for the height. And this is X here. Then we give it a nice title. And finally, a nice background color that I've chosen. Here is the code for it, the hexadecimal code. And finally, for the application to be executed, we call root.main loop. Okay, and everything else should go before this root.main loop. We call it, and we have our application. So, first things first, we'll have a label, then we'll have three buttons, then we'll have a label that displays the computer choice, and finally a result label that will display the result. Okay, so first we have our, oops, yeah, we have our choice label here. Then we have our button, and we have our button label. Okay, so our first label is an instruction label, and it's a tiki.label object that will be displayed within the root application. And the text is choose wisely. Once that's done, we pack the instruction label to the application via instruction label.pack. And we give a nice path from the y direction of, or the y-axis of 30 pixels. Now you can also use instruction label.place and you specify an x and y position if you want that. So here is our 30 pixels of padding, but I don't like much. I don't really like how this text is styled, so let's change that. First things first, what we are going to do is to give it a bigger font size. Let's specify a font of Helvetica, 20 and bold. Okay, a bit better. Then we give it a nice full ground color of white, meaning a text of white this way. And we fix the background color of the label to be the same background color of the application. Okay, better. Now we will create one button. Once this button is functioning, we'll duplicate it three times. Or you can create a for loop if you want. Okay, but I'm feeling lazy, so I'm gonna create one button, then I'm gonna duplicate it. And this is via tiki.button class. Okay, always first you specify the application, which is root, the text of the button, which is rock for the first one, because this one is for the rock button. And I'm wanting an emoji. Now you can go to this website, which is Emojipedia, and you search for rock. I have this one, so I go here and I copy, and I specify this emoji. This is simply for style. And finally, I'm gonna directly pack it this way to the application. And I'm adding a padding of, let's say 10 pixels. All right, we have our button. We make it bigger first. We fix a font size of Helvetica as well, but let's specify 16 instead of 20. All right. We give it a nice background color. Now I have chosen this color. You can choose the same color or any other color that you want. A full ground color of white. This is the color of the text to be white. This is the background of the button. And we fix the width and the height for the button. So our width, let's say it's 15 pixels, and the height is 2 pixels. Okay. We have our rock, uh, l- let's say button, and we create the button labels. Then we'll go back to create the other two buttons once this works as expected, because for now, obviously, this does not work at all. When you click, nothing happens because we didn't specify the action after clicking. All right, we create now the button labels. All right, so we'll create a computer label which will display the choice of the computer, which is the key dot label. Or let's simply copy all of this. Let's make things simpler. So here, computer label.pack. Let's fix a pad y of 20 pixels instead. And let's fix the text at first to be nothing, because at first the user hasn't yet chosen anything, so the computer hasn't yet chosen anything as well. And we fix it like that. We also do this as well for the final result to be displayed. And here it's, for example, result. Oops. Yeah. And let's add a footer actually. This is simply another label that contain the text good luck. And that's just that. Now we execute again, we have our text good luck. Now, of course, as you can see, we cannot see the result label because we don't have a result yet because we fixed the text to be nothing here. And for the computer label as well, we fixed it to be nothing. So let's change that. Here, when we click at the button, we add a command. And this command usually is an application, or it's usually a function, I'm sorry. So we are calling a function, but first let's define this function here. Actually, let's define a small function within this function create GUI. Let's define a function that is called, for example, handle choice. That takes a user choice. It's user choice. And based on that choice, first it will call, remember this one, our function play game. We'll call this function play game choice. And of course, we'll get as a result the computer choice and the result. And based on that, we'll configure our two button labels. So first, we'll configure the computer label. So computer label.config, obviously, we'll only config the text. So the text is, let's fix it to be an F string. And the computer has chosen. And we do an open and close brackets in order to put the computer choice. Then we also configure the result label, if that makes sense. We configure the result label to be simply the result. Okay, so now we are calling this function handle choice here once we click on the button. For example, this one is for the rock button. So we call the function via command equal something like this handle choice. And for example, here our choice is rock. But there is a simple trick here that is for Tkinter. When you are calling a command here, you are not allowed to pass variables this way. So you're only allowed to do this directly. But our function handle choice, it needs a variable. And there is a turnaround on this. Simply, we add something that is like this, lambda, handle choice row. Okay. The error here is that we didn't specify the result to be within the text. That's it. Yay, it works. Okay. So now this works. The logic is as follows. So we have the button here. Once we click on the button, what will happen? So we'll call this function handle choice with the user choice of rock. We'll execute this function. First, we'll get the computer choice and the result from the backend. Then we'll configure the two labels, the computer label and the result label with the new results. That's just that. And also here, I don't like the fact that they are of 20 pixels, so let's change that to 60. Okay. The only remaining thing to do is to duplicate this twice, and once it's for the paper, and once it's for one is for the papers and one is for the scissors. So the first one is paper, and we find an emoji of paper if you want, of course. The final one is for the scissors. Of course, you can find these emojis if you want to insert them in the same website that I've shown here. Okay. Now here we call handle choice with scissors and here with paper. Okay. Oh, this works. Finally, I don't like the fact that the three of them have the same color. So I've chosen already colors if you want to do the same. If you're happy with your application, you're happy with your application, of course. And here you go. This works. So thank you for watching.